Hi, friends. It's your host, Meg.
And Amanda. Welcome to Wake Up and Listen, the podcast where two friends get real about purpose, intuition, and laughing through the chaos.
If you're into personal growth with a side of giggles and maybe an existential breakthrough or two, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. It's time to
Wake up and listen.
The main shift that I really wanted to talk about is the communication gap between us and baby. My husband and I, one of our root things in our relationship is communication. From day one, we've always just been rock solid communicators, nothing off the table, always open to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. And that communication gap with your baby, where you just, from the time, I would say from about 0 to 3 years old, where you and baby are simply thriving together because neither of you actually know what the other is requesting. That is a season that I feel like is not talked about enough. Good morning, friends. Welcome to the Wake Up and Listen channel, where we hope to inspire you to wake up to your mind and listen to your body. It's your host, Meg, and today this episode is for the families. I am here to share my perspective on the very raw and real life shift of becoming a parent. This is arguably one of the toughest seasons I've ever navigated, and also the season that has been filled with so many blessings and so much love. It's kind of a mindfuck sometimes, to be honest. I'm sure if you are a parent, or maybe it's something you're desiring, this will be a great episode to just mentally prepare yourself for not necessarily what you're going to experience, because every human perspective is completely different. However, I hope to shed light on some of the realities of that matron to mother shift that are not really spoke upon. And it's not going to be all negative, because I can tell you that being a mom is one of the biggest blessings, and just it has unlocked this sense of curiosity and wonder about the world that you just lose as you groom yourself as an adult. We just get so caught up in the fast-paced society that we live in and providing for our family and ourselves and our dreams, and we totally lose the magic of slowing down and witnessing the world from a child's perspective. My newest thing lately actually is watching bumblebees pollinate in flowers. It's just so cute to kind of like watch them crawl inside and just do their thing. And Kim and I love doing that together. And that's something I would never do if I didn't have him to slow me down and bring me down a few inches to the ground where the flowers are and watch those little bumblebees do their thing. So Parenthood has definitely brought this huge sense of joy and wonder into my life. But with it being Suicide Awareness Month, and I know for so many people around the world, the parenthood shift is so tough, and that postpartum blues season can really take a toll on your mental health. So I'm just here to shed light on things that I've navigated, and I hope that it inspires others to live on another day and just embrace each day as a new possibility. So a little background from my matron to motherhood shift. Pregnancy was an absolute dream for me. I felt like a goddess. I had never been so in tune with my body. I was nesting with knowledge, I was learning, and I just felt so prepared. And I am blessed to say that also my birth was a dream come true. I was in pretermal labor for about a week. I don't know if it's just my high pain tolerance or what, but I essentially just had like intense period cramping sensations for about a week on and off. And then when it happened, it was in the middle of the night. And again, it was just kind of intense cramping. I was going to hop in the shower, but my water started to leak, and I tested positive for, I think it's strep B bacteria. And they wanted to do the intravenous antibiotics for me to protect baby through the canal and such. So we had headed to the hospital, and water broken triage. We got there. He was essentially out of me in 30 minutes, and it was just beautiful, and I just felt so loved and supported by not only my husband, but the staff as well. And then what we don't talk about is the second that your baby is brought earthside, it's no longer just you in this big, beautiful world. It is you and your baby with this, there is a sense of comfort and also a complete life dynamic shift. You walk into the hospital a couple of two, hopefully, if you have a supportive partner. And then you walk out of that hospital with this whole extra human. And although that's an obvious expectation when you go in to have a baby, I don't think we give ourselves enough credit and time to really absorb that shift. From the second that baby is born, and when it wakes up every single day, from when they lay down at night, it is you and that baby against the world. Even on your days off, if your parents have them, it's still your baby and it's still your concern and your source of love and light. So there are truly no days off from that point forward. And I am blessed to have such a supportive husband that holds a space for the hard days and helps me navigate those tough times. But for a lot of people, unfortunately, relationships are not guaranteed. And that bond with your baby is, though. And that bond is the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. And yet I still struggle with the loss of self, the time where my body and being was my only concern. And I think that is a really hard part of that season, discovering who you are in this new chapter of life where life is completely different. Even if it's just because this little being is now a part of your world, it changes everything. And I can't be the only one that struggled with that shift. I think I would say the singular thing that really grounded me through that life dynamic shift was really pouring into myself. Because I found when I showed up for myself, I gave myself that extra time in the morning before my family wakes up so I can kind of just like mentally ease into the day instead of the second I ding, 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 wake up, the baby's crying, I just hop right into mom mode. I don't know if it's just me, but that is overwhelming AF. I cannot do it. I only do it if I absolutely have to. And giving myself that grace in the morning of even just 30 minutes prior to when I can guesstimate my family waking up. The other thing with a baby is nothing is guaranteed as far as timelines. You are on your baby's timeline and you're just doing your best to show up for yourself in between. And I think trying to accommodate that grace, like I said, though, for yourself, especially in the morning before you start your day and you're in that mom or dad role, was a huge lifesaver for myself. Movement is huge as far as stress relief. And just the way we fuel our body, too, was a huge life shift for us. We had done a lot more home-cooked meals, particularly because at the time we really had to budget because finances were tight. However, that positively affected us because the quality of our food was much, much higher. The main shift that I really wanted to talk about is the communication gap between us and baby. My husband and I, one of our root things in our relationship is communication. From day one, we've always just been rock solid communicators, nothing off the table, always open to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. And that communication gap with your baby where you just, from the time, I would say from about 0 to 3 years old, where you and baby are simply thriving together because neither of you actually know what the other is requesting. That is a season that I feel like is not talked about enough. Cameron is about 2.5 now, and he is behind in speech. He didn't really start saying a lot of words until about 1.5. And I think part of that was because he picked up on sign language and we just were not pushing him to verbalize enough. And who knows, maybe he just wasn't ready to talk. So he is in early intervention practices, and that's been super helpful. And I just think we take that language, or just language in general, for granted. And fun fact, I had gone to Assumption College. I majored in human services, but I was actually all set to pursue a speech pathology degree. And I think this is one of the reasons that I found studying speech and language in school was so fascinating. We take our voice and language for granted, and nothing has made me realize that more than parenthood and having a nonverbal toddler has. And we are just finally, like I said, he's 2.5 now, and I feel like we're just starting to reach that understanding. His receptive language is insanely advanced, meaning he understands a lot. But to then express his wants and needs is still a huge gap we are navigating. And we had just went through this kind of tough season of swapping his schools because his initial daycare was not structured enough and providing enough resources for him to thrive with this communication gap that he's experiencing. And the behaviors were just rough. He was hitting, screaming, biting himself, scratching us. We're still navigating some of those things, but with each word and him realizing the power of his voice and each little thing that he expresses, the behaviors and the frustration start to melt away, not only on his end, but our end too. And I just had this thought the other day after we had like a core memory night where he was just expressing so much, and we had so many moments where he essentially right now how we operate is he'll say something, and if we kind of don't understand, we'll say it out loud of what we thought we heard. And if that's what he means, then he goes, yes, like just like the sigh of relief, like yes. And every time he does that, it's just like this indescribable feeling of him feeling seen and heard and understood. And you just feel like a rock star parent. And so we had this core memory of a night where I personally just felt with my whole soul that he felt loved and supported and seen via his voice and the words he expressed. And until you reach that level of understanding in your parenthood journey, I truly believe you're not a family. You're a tribe, a team 100% committed to each other's good health and happiness, but you don't know each other yet. The instinctual connection can only go so far. At least that's what I've experienced. And the feeling you receive when you relay back what you think your toddler said for like the 5th time, and he finally says yes, is just simply indescribable. Communication is the core of our marriage. And for Cam to be disconnected in that way has weighed on us so much. And not just us, but I'm sure Cam too. And I try and take a step back often and just recognize that this is Cam's first rodeo too. This is his first time navigating this life with us, starting from ground zero. And flip side, parents, give yourself some grace. This is your first rodeo too, especially obviously if it's your first kid. So give yourself grace. As long as you show up, you provide for your child, they're fed, they have water, they're thriving, and they're running around and doing all the things, you are winning, even if it feels like the hardest day ever. And if I had to give any unsolicited advice to hopefully close this uncomfortable gap sooner rather than later, these are a couple things that I feel has really impacted closing this communication gap for us. Accepting help has been the biggest thing that has helped us close this gap, because it's allowed him to, or allowed all of us to embrace these resources that can help him learn and grow. I mean, think about learning a new language. That doesn't happen overnight, and our babies are literally coming into this world with no reference. They don't have a language in their mind to compare to what we're trying to teach them. They're like, literally, I see an object and my mom's saying it's called this thing, so that's what I'm going to call it. And I feel like, again, that isn't talked of enough. This is our first rodeo. It's their first rodeo, and they're just learning from ground zero. So it's going to take time. And although receiving special services is never a conversation a parent desires having, why not accept that help, though, and that resource so it can help your child learn and grow and advance and close that communication gap so that you guys can feel seen, heard, and understood together. And fun fact, if you're a local Rhode Islander, I'm not quite sure what the stipulations are in other states, but early intervention is completely covered by the state of Rhode Island until age of 3. So again, why not embrace that? I don't know about you, but if it's free, it's for me, especially when it comes to healthcare. Remove the shame and get rooted in that positive desired outcome, which is becoming a family bonded by an overall understanding to your core. And then the next thing that has really helped ground myself during this season of closing that communication gap is taking care of myself. I truly believe that if you don't love on yourself fully and you are a complete, satisfactory state with yourself, you cannot hopefully and genuinely show up for others. So, or what do they say? You can't pour from an empty cup. Fill your cup first. Give yourself that grace, whether it be first thing in the morning or my husband's going for bike rides as a way to decompress and show up differently as a father. Do something, anything for yourself every single day to help ground yourself and release any tension so that you can come home and show up for your child in the best way. One stupid little thing that I do too to decompress from work is horse lips or horse trills. So you take a nice big inhale in. And when you exhale, you just let the air flow through your lips and just kind of let it flow out. Do nice long inhales and exhales with that. And that is a somatic response that literally changes the chemistry in your brain to relax. So even if it's just that silent car ride with some horse lips that calms you down, do something for yourself so that you can show up in the best way for both you and baby. And then the next thing is just being honest with yourself. Do self-check moments, especially for the moments that you don't feel proud of. Be honest with yourself when you don't like how you show up. And yes, we're all going to beat ourselves up over yelling at our toddler or saying certain things to our toddler or just generally how we show up some days, because parenthood is hard. When you don't understand each other, it's hard. You both are just trying to figure it the F out. And if you're not honest with yourself, you will just continue to show up in a way that you are not proud of. But when you have those self-check moments, you just take each day with a grain of salt and just show up 1% better the next. And lastly, I think the biggest thing that has saved my mentality and how I show up in this season is simply breathing. Taking a moment to stop, breathe, and be is something that is so overlooked. The art of simply taking a breath can completely change a moment and how you react. Sometimes all you need is a breath. And life is so fast-paced and we are just trying to accommodate in that moment within that 5-second window because we think that's what our child needs. And all we need to do to react the way we want in that moment is to simply take a breath. So this is your reminder that we love you, we see you, parents. You are navigating a season that will change your life forever in the most challenging and most beautiful ways. Stop, breathe, be. You got this. Thanks for tuning in and hope to see you in the next episode.